Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Joey Francis, your life, love, and relationship coach. Thank you so much for joining me. This one is a doozy. So this is a question that I've been asked so many times, I can't even remember how many times. But I was asked it recently, which made me think to do this episode. Now, obviously, you know what it is because of the title of the episode. Who should pay on the first date? Now, isn't that the question? And over the years, obviously, the question gets a little muddy and murky. But generally speaking, there's going to be people out there that have different thoughts and opinions. And before I get into anything, I want to say, what works for you works for you. If you are someone who, for instance, thinks that you should go 50-50, and I can see the merits in that, sure, absolutely. If you are someone who thinks that, hey, every time I go on a date, I am perfectly okay with paying for the first date, then, hey, you know what? All the power to you. If you are someone who, what's the word I'm looking for here? Expects the other party to pay for your date every single time, well, guess what? You're wrong. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So we're going to get into what I believe the right answer is, and we'll talk about that. Now, luckily, I don't even have to explain it to you because somebody already did. I came across, this is Matthew Hussey, if you're not familiar. He is also a dating and relationship guru, has like a bajillion followers. And although I can't say that I agree with everything he says because I don't know everything that he says, on this particular part, I agree with him and I love his answer. And essentially, I've been using his answer since I've started dating way back a long time ago, even though things have changed over the years. So let's watch.
When you're on a date, who should pay?
I know. I mean, that's what I told them. You know, I'm sorry.
But-
I would say, I'm dating. We're dating. You're
But here's the
gentleman here. You're supposed
okay.
to pay.
He's supposed to pay.
Yeah, that's what I told them.
But you're supposed to have sex with him whenever he says.
No. Whenever both.
Where does this double standard come from? I'm sorry, it's the reality. You guys can moan at it all you want, but the moment you say to a guy, you have to fucking pay for my time, you're saying this relationship isn't equal. This relationship isn't equal. My time is worth more than yours, so you should pay for it. I wonder what paradigm that sets up. Here's my view. If you go on a date with a guy and you don't offer to pay your share, you weren't taught right. If you go on a date and he doesn't pay, he wasn't taught right. I can tell you right now, if I was dating someone and they never offered to pay, I wouldn't be dating them. I can tell you that now. If they never offered to pay, I would not be dating them because I'd say, this is the most polite they're ever going to be. And they're not even trying to pay now. What does that say about my future? But let me come at this from a different angle. I will always treat my partner how I would treat my best friend. And I wouldn't apply a different standard to my partner than my best friend. I wouldn't say to my best friend, let's always go out to dinner and you always pay. I'd say, let's be teammates here in whatever way we can.
Now, isn't that interesting? See, as he said, women should make an attempt. Men should initially pay. And that's essentially like where I stand. You know, if I go out with someone and they just sit there when the bell comes and just expect me to pay, I'll pay it, no questions asked. But that's the last time I'm going out with you. And talking with other individuals, that's how a lot of guys also think and operate. It's all gesture based, obviously. It's not necessarily about the money. It's about the gesture. Because again, if you're going out on a first date with someone, chances are it's something small, like going for a coffee or a drink or an ice cream or something along those lines. So money isn't really the issue. It's just the gesture. And obviously he wants to gesture that he, thanks you for your time and enjoyed your company, and vice versa. A woman should gesture to say, hey, you know what? I value you. I value the time we spent together, and I'm more than willing to pay my part. Now, if you're someone who expects the date to be paid for, I mean, as you just watched, like, does the guy, because it's mainly women, right? But does the guy get to suggest when he gets to have sex with you? No. Because like Matthew said, what kind of precedent are we setting when someone has to pay for your time? Just like if you were a lawyer or a mechanic or a doctor, right? What is somebody getting for their money? Now, I know that there are women out there that believe that, well, I have to get ready. I have to buy an outfit. I have to put on makeup. I have to do this. I have to do that. And this costs this much, and this costs that much, and that costs this much. And guys only have to spend 10 minutes to get ready. And then, they're perfectly fine in going out. Here's the thing. If you are one of those women, let me ask you a question. Do you think that you would date a guy that only takes 10 minutes to get ready? Do you think that would be your type of guy? Because I disagree. You probably want a guy that's well-groomed, who takes care of himself, gets regular haircuts, has, nice manicured face, probably uses skincare, wears nice clothes, has a good sense of fashion, and in all of that, wants to smell nice for you. So he wears very expensive cologne. I know, because I am literally one of those guys. So now the whole cost idea goes right out the window, because the guy is essentially spending the same amount of money as you are when it comes to getting ready. And I mean, if we're going to be frivolous about it, I'm pretty sure that we can come up with all kinds of different costs to make it equal out, to completely get rid of that whole notion. So if you are one of those people, please just stop. Just stop. Throw that idea out the window. First of all, nobody told you. Nobody told you that you have to do all those things, right? Now I get it, because you want to look a certain way, be a certain way to get the attention of a certain guy. Yeah, you might have to do those things. But that's just the cost of playing the game. Because here's the thing. If you were to go out with your friends, and this goes both ways, but if you were to go out with your friends, would you charge your friends this price of admission to be in your presence? I'm assuming not. And the whole idea of dating and finding somebody, like genuinely, is you're looking for someone to share your life with. Essentially, your best friend. So let's get that idea out the window. Okay? Now here's the thing. It's obviously not right that a guy should have to pay for every single date. It is what it is. I understand it, right? But here's the thing. Let's take that and shelve it for a second. And let's just look at what works. Because chances are, and again, I know this for a fact, a lot of women will not have a second date with you if you're not picking up the check. It's just a fact, right? Now, you might want a woman that, like me, at least fakes it so that they show that, they care, that they're interested in you and not what you provide. So that's the thing. But again, if you're not picking up the check, chances are you're not getting a second date. And I've actually heard from quite a few women that said, if I have to pay. It will be the last time I see him, whether they're paying for their own half, the whole thing, whatever the case is. Now, let's reverse that, right? Because what works? If a woman is to sit there and just look at it and expect the guy to pay, guess what? If he's an actual like high value type of guy, the kind of guy that you want to have a lasting long relationship with, chances are he's not going to take that shit either. So what works is at least offer to pay. And then if the guy doesn't take care of it, I mean, that's for you to decide what happens after the fact. But at least offer. At least show him that he doesn't need to pay for your time, but he wants to pay for your time. See the difference there? Because it's a massive difference. And I mean, even looking at this whole subject, there's a lot of things that we need to include, a lot of factors that we need to include. Because on average, talking about online dating, you know, my favorite topic, women tend to get more dates than guys. And it's like 5-1, right? So generally speaking, within a matter of a week, let's just say a guy gets 1 date and a woman gets 5 dates. Now, if a guy was to go out with you and you were completely transparent with him and telling him, oh, yeah, you know, this has been great. Yeah. I have another date with another guy tomorrow, another date with another guy the next day, another date with another guy the day after that, and another date with another guy the day after that one. What makes you think a guy's going to be like, and I'm going to pay for you right now? Why would I do that? You know what? Your date tomorrow can pay, and the guy after that can pay, and the guy after that can pay. I ain't going to pay because he doesn't feel special. He doesn't feel like he's getting any value for his money, right? So take that into consideration when you're going out on dates and thinking about stuff like this. Not to mention, again, online dating, the first date isn't actually a date, but it is kind of a date. It's more of two people meeting for the first time. Now, if you want to consider it a date because you've been talking on the phone or messaging each other, et cetera, I mean, that's understandable. But here's the thing. We're both going in. We're both going in without that understanding of do we or do we not have chemistry, which can literally be over within 10 seconds of meeting each other. So there's that too. Now, that's why I always say first dates from people meeting online, keep it simple, keep it easy, coffee, drink. So that if it is in 10 seconds, not feeling it, it's like a big deal. I had a coffee, good conversation. See you later. I'm out of here. Or, you know, that same thing, but with a drink instead. And at least that way, it's not that expensive for guys, because, you know, you do have to consider money being a factor when you think about how many people you're going out with. So using that formula, you know, 5-1, women to men, if women had to pay for the first date, but they were getting 5 dates a week, it would get really expensive really fast, even if it was just something as simple as coffee or a drink, you know? So we have to take these things into consideration. Obviously, you don't want to overthink it, and you don't want it to, you know, go off the rails. But at the end of the day, I mean, we want to be treated appropriately. We want to be liked. We want to know that our time is valued, vice versa, both men and women. And that's a very, very important thing. Because we can even go even further now. What about gay couples? Who pays? Now, I'm sorry, my hands. I'm Italian. I've done some research. Granted, that's like, you know, skimming through like TikToks and YouTube to try to find an answer to who pays in a gay encounter. And it seems like it's a little bit more ambiguous, but at the same time, things are a little bit more accepted because it's either a man and a man and a woman, and there isn't no gender roles to speak of. So there isn't no precedence. There isn't no, unwritten rules to this. Now, from everything that I've watched and saw, it's essentially the person who asks is the person who pays, or, they each pay their own way type of thing, which is, granted, very interesting, but maybe that's something that we need to take a page out of in traditional courtships, right? Just something to think about, really. But just, like I said, for the most part, the guy is going to pay, because otherwise a woman's not going to date him. And a woman has to offer. Otherwise, a guy's not going to be interested. And just to give even more context on that, this day and age, there are, and I know of this, like factual, I've known them, I've run into them. There are women out there that literally comb through dating sites to find guys to take them out to dinner. Literally, because they don't feel like cooking, or they don't feel like going out to dinner themselves. They look for men to buy them dinner that night. And granted, there are a lot of men out there that are willing to say yes, obviously depending on the woman. Now, if you ask me, somebody paying for your time like that makes me think of a word that starts with the letter P and rhymes with prostitution. Just saying. So maybe think twice about using people. And if you haven't listened to, is it last week's? No, it's not last week's episode. A few weeks ago that I recorded an episode about using people, and that people aren't stupid, and that if you do use someone, it's only a matter of time before they find out. Now, a lot of people out there, mainly guys, they might be in the category of desperate. And I hate to say that, but it is what it is. Because at the end of the day, if somebody makes them an offer and they accept that offer, it's on them. Even if it's a shitty offer, even if I was to say, like, don't do that, that's dumb of you, stop it, it's on them. They chose to accept that offer, right? So if there are women, messaging a guy saying, hey, listen, let's cut the small talk. Why don't you take me out to dinner tonight? And we'll see if we like each other then. And the guy goes, hey, you know what? That's a great idea. Let's do that. That's on him. That's on him for saying yes. All she did was make an offer. I don't condone her behavior, but at the same time, he accepted it. So whatever happens after that point, it's on him. And I hope that if any guy listening to this has ever been in that situation and has fallen for it, stop. Self-respect, right? Give yourself some self-respect. If somebody likes you, or if somebody is attracted to you, how about we find out like who you are, who I am, and see if we actually like each other before we go on to that step, as per like my first couple of videos giving my ideas of how online dating should work. So yeah, is there anything else I wanted to say to this? No, not really. That's pretty much it, really. So, like, all in all, at the end of the day, nothing's changed. I mean, the answers that we all think that should be are even though everything else has changed. But if a guy's gonna get a second date, chances are this is what's gonna happen. And I mean, I've even watched a bunch of other like YouTube videos and TikToks where people like took to the streets and were asking just passerbyers, like what their ideas are. And funny enough, it was like younger women were very like, no, the guy's got to pay 100%. And older women were like, I mean, I'd like him to pay, but I don't mind going 50-50. I'd like him to know that he doesn't have to support me and that I'm, a grown adult. And, I would want him to be there for me and not or I want to be there for him and not what he offers me. And things of that nature, which is honestly a very, very sweet sentiment. And I love to hear that. And even if I was on a date with such a woman, I would still take care of the bill because that's just the way that I was brought up, as per Matthew Hussey. So on that note, I don't think I have anything else to say. Thank you so much for listening to me. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. I'm going to leave a link to Matthew Hussey's YouTube channel, I think, down below or somewhere around here. So if you don't follow him or have heard of him, I suggest you give him a listen. He does say a lot of great things. But chances are, if you're listening to me, you already know who he is. And I really appreciate you listening to me. And if by any chance you have any questions for me, feel free to ask them at joeyfrancis.com. That's joeyfrances.com. And there's a box there where you can write me a message. And either can just talk to you one-on-one, or we can make an episode out of it, such as things like this. So on that note, love yourself and only make decisions that are in your favor or that do you right or something along those lines. I keep messing it up every week, but it is what it is. I just want you all to be happy. Till next time.